Hey everybody. So what's happening? What's happening today? What are we doing out there? I'm so thankful that you guys are here. I really am. I'm grateful. I'm looking forward to this one. It's a beautiful day out here in Williamsburg, Virginia. And I couldn't be in a better mood. I wanted to show you. So I'm going through storage. You guys know I'm traveling the country. We're riding roller coasters. Every roller coaster in the country. I'm taking my kids. I resigned. I sold it all. And the goal is just, we bought this thing here and we're driving around. But Virginia is our home base. We left out of Charlottesville, Virginia, and that's where my storage unit is. So we went back yesterday and looked at all the stuff that I felt it was so important to retain possession of, that I'm paying however much it is a month to keep this stuff. And so this was our first time going to the storage unit in a just a little touch over a year. And let me tell you all the crap I have in there. I'm just telling you, there's like, I'd say about 70% of it is stuff I'm like, why is this in here? Why am I paying money to hold on to this plastic cube or whatever it is, you know? But one thing I did find, oh, hey. So amongst all the stuff that I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of, do I want to sell it? Do I want to donate it? Do I want to give it to someone? One of the things I did find was this. Now look at this thing. It's tired. I used to literally take this thing and stick it in my back pocket. I've had this thing, I don't know, 20 years or so. It's beautiful, but it's so faded. It's like an army green now. You see that? Let's put it on for this one, huh? What do you think? Fits my head. If anything ever was perfectly sized for my head, it's this thing. So I grabbed it. How did I leave this guy behind? It's a stressful time when you're moving and trying to figure out, going from 3,400 square feet to 200 square feet. You make all sorts of decisions. So here I am, up to my ears in stuff, ready to talk to you about the New York Jets. Before we get really going here, I want to just remind you, if you want to really do a good thing in this world, we always try to figure out, how can I put in? How can I help? Where can I improve this planet of ours? You could start with hitting the subscribe button right here on this channel. It's a little red button. I'll put a little thing. Look, there it is. Where is it? Here? Oh, wait, where'd I put it? Yeah. We'll put the subscribe button there. You just click it. It means the world. It provides me an opportunity to continue to do this stuff. YouTube has algorithms and all that sort of stuff. If you're really feeling fancy, you can hit that the like button. Oh my God. And if you want to really put on the extra necklace for the ball, hit that little bell icon up top. You'll be reminded every time I go live, every time I'm putting out a video, everything I do, you will know first. And it just makes the world a better place, in my opinion. And like I mentioned with this guy, we are traveling all over the country to ride every roller coaster in this great land, maybe even Canada. And you can see that in all my happenings at Full Time Coaster Tour on YouTube or fulltimecoastertour.com. That's where the blogs are and the merch and everything else. And you can do a great thing by supporting me there. It helps me to be, to stay out here and continue to do this, man, which is not easy. So let's briefly touch on it. We had a whole week to discuss it. It's really funny. I put out last week's podcast and I was talking about, hey, we need to stop arguing over Sam Darnold and this guy's right and that guy's wrong, and because I'm right, you suck, and this guy says I don't suck, your mother sucks, and all that kind of stuff. It was really getting to me, and I was like, I'm watching the Jets divide, widen. So I put out the podcast saying, hey guys, cut the shit, huh? And then I went to Busch Gardens that day, and I'm at Busch Gardens. I'm standing by the Grover coaster. My kids are on the Grover coaster, and I get this blurb. Jets trade Sam Darnold to the Panthers. So my first thought was, oh, okay, well, that podcast is moot. And it sucks because that's where I put the interview with Murph Baldwin from Top Bill in Sports. I might peel that off and make it its own thing because I'm telling you, if you haven't seen that one, and I know a lot of you haven't because the numbers are down because of the way that Sam Darnold was traded and everything like that. It's totally normal. But the interview with Murph Baldwin really dissecting the tight ends in this class, also some of the offensive line, how we're going to maybe coordinate and orchestrate this new offensive line build, in addition to some real straight talk on Chris Herndon. A lot of guys have a lot of flighty ideas, really high hopes for Chris Herndon, and I hope he does great too. But the truth is you're hoping for something to take place that never really was there. So Murph does a really good job of explaining that. He's been covering Chris Herndon, since like high school, so he knows a thing or two. And I might just pull that off of there. But anyway, we were talking about Sam Darnold, and hours later, he's traded. So the podcast is out the window. And we talked about it ad nauseum. That day we talked about it. Every YouTube content creator was all over it. We did the Talking Jets panel on Jets Talk 24/7 with Matt O'Leary and Ryan. We talked about it there. I made videos about this. Joe Douglas's blurb about I could give two shits, all that sort of stuff. So, but I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention it in the context of where we are now, which is 1 week, it's 6 days later. So a couple of things. One is, I think the conversations really started with, did Joe Douglas do a good thing? Or did he do a bad thing, right? It comes down to that. It's black and white for many people out there. Was this the right move? And I think it's really important to consider a few things. One is the coaching situation that we have right now, and we'll breeze over this real quick just to make sure that a week later we have it in its contextual bubble. Okay. So we have a rookie head coach, rookie offensive coordinator, and a GM who, for all intents and purposes, is a rookie as well. Yes, he had one draft, one full offseason, but he wasn't even the full, the boss at that point. He had a co-boss and then a Chris Johnson above him. So right now he doesn't have any of that. He is in charge of the football operation, and that is brand new. It's only a few months old, and Joe Douglas has been here for 22 months now, 22 months. And he's got this quarterback who's underperforming, for whatever the reasons, right? We know the reasons. We've dissected it ad nauseum. We have this quarterback who's underperforming and stands right at the precipice of making a decision about his fifth-year option, which is $19 million. And you get into some murky water there, because if you commit to the fifth year and he has a clunker of a year, and you're stuck, right? You're stuck. You can't do other things and whatever. So Joe Douglas decides, we've done this kid wrong. We've done a poor job developing him, and I have a new coaching staff, and their first job shouldn't be to try to rebuild a quarterback. So we happen to have the number 2 overall pick. It's looking more and more likely that pick is going to be used for a quarterback, right? And rightfully so. As big of a fan as I am of trade backs, and just accruing as much capital, it goes back to my gambling days, man. I want to parlay this into something else. You know what I mean? But if you need a quarterback and you're at 2 and there's a quarterback there, smart money's on taking him, right? If you believe in the guy, you do your homework and you take the guy. I'm at the 2nd overall pick. I'm going to grab this quarterback. I happen to like a couple of them there. If Jacksonville takes Trevor Lawrence, I'm great with Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. If Jacksonville does the seemingly impossible and passes on Trevor Lawrence to take Zach Wilson, I'd love Trevor Lawrence as well. So he's in a situation where it makes sense to do this. He finds a trading partner for Sam. He's not sending him to the tundra of Detroit as like a punishment or anything like that. You got Matt Rule, who wanted to be Sam Darnold's coach 2 years ago. Did his homework then. He's got Joe Brady down there, one of the up-and-coming young offensive minds in this game. He's got Robbie Anderson, his former number 1 target down there. He's got Trenton Cannon, and nobody cares. And he's got Pat Elflein, a guy who got to know Sam the last part of last year of 2020 and was one of his protectors. So they know each other a little bit too. So he sends him down there. He recoups a fourth-round pick, which he lost in the Jamal Adams trade. And Joe Douglas has been really good at that. Okay, he's been able to use capital for a move or for a player or whatever it might be, and coming around the corner, recoup that capital. He's done that more than once, which is interesting if you think about it. So he wants to make sure that all of his assets are in line and all. It's really interesting. The more you dig into this and see trying to figure out how he thinks. So he gets a fourth-round pick and a second-round pick next year. Everybody was saying a second and a fifth would be fine, or just a second. He gets a second and a fourth, and he adds to his stockpile of sixth-round picks this year. As you know, you may not know, but you should know by now, Joe Douglas has compiled 9 fifth and sixth-round picks over the next 2 years. 9 of them. So he's got plans. Even if it's just to take these guys and increase your odds of hitting, because, the more you take, the more likely one of them is going to hit, right? Or if it's packaging them and trading up to the third round or the fourth round to get somebody that's slipping, that's a little bit more of a premium player, what have you. I honestly thought that he would be using these picks by now to trade for guys that teams had to cut, but it wasn't quite the same purge that we thought was coming with the 2021 salary cap going down the way that it did. Teams figured out how to push those contracts to later years, and a lot more players than I thought were willing to renegotiate, quite frankly. I didn't think it was going to be quite like this. You look at the Saints. I mean, they had how many players renegotiate? 6, 7, something like that, which is incredible. I didn't see that coming. So he takes Sam Darnold, he sends him to a great situation, and we get very, very strong compensation. Now, he admitted that if he would have traded him maybe 2 months ago, he probably could have gotten a little bit more, maybe a first, maybe looking at, trading Sam in 34 for 8 kind of a thing. Maybe he could have did that. He said their offer was strong, and there were numerous offers, but you can look at that in a very simplistic way and go, he should have taken the more capital, and you'd have a point. But the thing that I like about Joe Douglas is the systematic approach. We're a very type A fan base. We're like, come on. That's how we are. Let's go. And thankfully, Joe Douglas is not that way. He's the University of Richmond. Virginia, it's a little different than it is up there in the Northeast. A little different mindset. A little slower, Not slower in a educational sort of way or anything like that. Just slower. Cautious. So he wasn't willing to trade away his third overall pick quarterback, 23-year-old guy, until he felt confident that he actually wanted one of these guys that are in the draft. Make sure they pass their physicals and all that stuff. Yeah, and you can take chances, or you could say, screw it, I'm just going to take one anyway, I don't care, and I'll take the first for Sam or whatever it was. But I like that Joe Douglas is a little bit more thorough, let's call it. So here's what this all boils down to, and I think it's unique, because I did not feel this way in the Jamal Adams trade. I felt like Joe Douglas got a king's ransom in the Jamal Adams trade. I think it was ridiculous what Seattle was willing to give up for Jamal Adams. I would have been happy with that first and third stuff that we were talking about. Instead, Joe Douglas gets 2 firsts, takes his 4th round pick and moves it up to the 3rd, and he gets Bradley McDougall to take a shot and hold the fort while he's building the team, right? The 2 firsts alone, guys. So this was not that trade. What he did with the Carolina Panthers was, in my opinion, really good for all 3 sides. 3 sides. Yeah, 3 sides. I think the Jets got fantastic value after making sure everything was good and, a very safe way to do it. And the Carolina Panthers got a potential franchise quarterback from their perspective for chump change. It's a 2nd round pick. They got a 6th round pick this year. It doesn't really change their draft plan for 2021. A 2nd and a 4th. They'll feel it. But if Sam Darnold comes out of the gate and plays well, they're not even going to care. And if he doesn't play well, they only lose a second, and they can use their first on a quarterback or what have you. And the real winner is Sam Darnold. He was in a lose-lose here, man. It doesn't matter anymore how it got here. It doesn't matter. It was over. Sadly, it makes me sad, and I think the whole situation just sucks. I do. I hate it. I like Sam Darnold, and I wanted him to succeed here. But it didn't. So Sam Darnold gets a fresh start with two very well-respected offensive minds. Matt Rule is known as one of the great motivators of the NFL right now. Okay? They said, Matt Rule, I saw a report that said Matt Rule could sell your own stuff back to you and make you feel like you got a good deal. Now, is he full of shit? Maybe. I don't know what that means, but it sounds like he's able to convince people to believe in theories and concepts that he needs you to believe in. So, there it is. It's really good, and I'll do one more thing. So, Joe Douglas was asked this week, if Sam Darnold does well, does that make you look bad? And I loved his answer. One of the greatest answers I've ever heard from a Jets GM, period. I could give two shits. You're telling me that in order for me to look good, Sam has to fail? If that's the case, then, whatever. Because I'm rooting for him. I root for good people. Sam's a good man, and that's what I'm doing. So you guys can all go suck it. And I love it. I love it. I'm rooting for Sam, too. As you guys may know by now, I don't root for any non-Jets. I don't. Unless it has something to do with helping the Jets. Like when a Jet player leaves, I want him to fail. When Sean Ellis, I loved Sean Ellis. When he went to the Patriots, I hated his face. Darrelle Revis, I hated him. And I wanted, when we traded Darrelle Revis to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off that knee surgery, we played them game 1 that year, the following year. I think we should have thrown at Revis every single play. It should have opened with it, and we should have tested that knee right off the gate. And he would have been unable to handle it because, as we know now, with hindsight, he was not 100%. He was on the field. We could have exploited him and made that trade look even better. That's how I roll. But Sam Darnold, I don't think it's going to happen that way. As soon as he suits up against us or anything like that, it won't take long for me to hate him. But as of right now, I'm rooting for him. I agree. So, let's get into this thing, huh? The draft is coming. And I know it's funny. People, every year we do this, right? Every year we go into rumor season. We going into free agency where everybody's doing mocks. I have the Monday Night Mock every Monday night at 10 p.m. on my YouTube channel. And we have special guests, Jets by Jimmy. We had Harrison Glazer. This week we're going to have Jets Media on, Richie. And next week I believe it's going to be Ali. And, last week we had Ryan and Matt on with the contest winners. Big Green, Thor, Alex Cotter, Dom C. Who else? Forgive me if there's someone else. But I'll put it up there if I forget somebody. But so it's been a good time. But here's what happens. We go into this all excited. We saturate it. We do 10 mocks a day. We figure out everything. We explore all the free agents. We get pissed off he didn't sign the guys that I figured out I wanted and all this sort of, this stuff. And by now, we're still 2 weeks away. And this is what you start hearing. The draft can't come fast enough. I can't wait till this is over. Happens every year. Every single year. This is what happens. Like I said before, I've been on Jetnation for a long time. I was on many message boards before that. The Greenhouse, Rivals, all those places. So I've been doing this a long time. Getting into this season and really talking about it. A lot of people are maybe new to, they're doing this on Twitter or it's only been a year or two. But I'm going to tell you right now, it happens every year. Right around now, we start getting exhausted of it. And then it starts to be a negative. Everybody starts negatively absorbing mock drafts. I don't need another mock draft. Cut the shit with the mock drafts. But if you do it right, if you go into rumor season doing it right, exploring different options, looking at all the potential variables before this guy gets traded. What happens? And you do that right, it can be a blast. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to get into really some analytic type stuff. I'm not an analytics guy, don't let me fool you. But some more wide scope types of outlooks on the draft. And today what I'd like to get into with you is the strength of the draft. Which positions are the strength and how that pertains to the New York Jets. What does it all mean, man? First, let's look at our needs. Okay? The New York Jets' needs, as we stand right now, are very clear. Very clear. And even when we went into free agency, there were hopes that we would address some of these needs. Some were and some weren't. Right? But the way that it looks right now is we need a quarterback. It's number one. It's undeniable fact. Right now on our roster, we have James Morgan, David Fales, and the other guy, White. That's our quarterbacks. Even Joe Flacco flew the coop. So we're going to need a quarterback. And then we're going to need offensive linemen, particularly interior offensive linemen. So what does that mean? Does that mean that we have to get two guards because we already have McGovern, or does that mean one thing or the other? It means we need guys that can play inside. Right now, while I think this is a bad idea, even guys that we already have on the roster can play inside. Like George Fant could play inside. The reason, and I hear that being talked about, the reason that that's not necessarily smart is George Fant is an exceptionally athletic right tackle. So he actually fits the schemes of what a Shanahan offense looks like a little bit better than a lot of the guys who would really be good otherwise. So George Fant is probably the perfect right tackle for us right now. I know people don't love him yet, and who knows what the future holds, but he's an excellent free agent signing last year, and he's not the weakness on the team, right? So we need interior guys, but that if there's a tackle that's so good, so athletic on the right side that we can pick at pick whatever, 34, moving George Fant inside is also an option. Another option is if a center comes up, a Creed Humphrey, a Josh Myers, a Landon Dickerson, even guys like Quinn Miners. You know, like if one of those guys is there and he's far and away better than the guards that are available, you could go that way and then move McGovern. You know what I mean? So we have options here, but essentially what the need is you need interior offensive linemen. Becht and Fant are fine, and McGovern somewhere in the middle is fine too. I mean, they could be cogs in a dominant O-line. Absolutely. So there's that. Another need is cornerback. Now, we happen to have Bryce Hall, who you know by now. I'm a huge Bryce Hall fan. I loved him coming out. I was upset that the Jets didn't take him in the fourth. I was so mad. We accrued 3 fourth-round picks, and we didn't use one on Bryce Hall. There was not a better player in the draft from my perspective. And as much as I liked Cam Clark and the other guy I didn't like very much, but it is what it is, I was so angry that we didn't use one of them on Bryce Hall. I thought we'd let one slip by, and then we grabbed him with our fifth, which is brilliant to me. It's brilliant. Lucky? Maybe. Looks to me like Joe Douglas knows how to read the draft board. So we have Bryce Hall. We have Blesson Austin. We don't have Brian Poole right now. Really what we're looking at there is Javelin Guidry for the nickel. Okay? And so it's a need. Okay? We thought we'd see some veteran help come in, maybe from the 49ers. That didn't happen. So we're going to need a cornerback. But the good news is one of our other needs that we did address in free agency has been addressed. Is going to help the cornerback position immensely. And that's the edge rusher. We haven't put any real resources into the edge. I think the best shot we took was Quentin Copels and Ja'Kai Polite. That's about it, man. It's been predominantly interior defensive line that we've shot for. So edge is a need, but we've addressed it. So it pushes that. We have Carl Lawson, Vinny Curry as a rotational piece, and we also have guys on the interior such as Quinnen Williams, Furlanzo Fatukasi, and Nathan Shepard and Kyle Phillips and the like. Oh, we also got Sheldon Rankins to be in there with Quinn and Williams and all that. So we have quarterback, we have interior offensive line, we have cornerback and edge. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm telling you, with all the fifths and sixths that we've accrued, one of our main needs is kicker. Okay, I know people love to minimize this, and clearly Joe Douglas has as well. It's one of the knocks on him from my perspective. I don't like it. I don't like how he's mismanaged his kicker position. He's put too much faith in guys that were never going to make it. And even though Ficken was serviceable, he's not the guy, man. He's not the guy. So I'm really hoping we use one of those sixths. If we use a fifth, we got 4 of them, use one. If you think Jose Borregales might be taken, or the kid from Memphis, I'm forgetting his name, Riley Patterson, just do it. Just get it done. So that's another need, okay? Now don't forget so we have quarterback, interior offensive line, we have cornerback, edge rusher, kicker. It's 5 needs. Then you get into wide receiver, and that would probably be looked at before kicker. Fair enough. And then you got the just defensive back safeties. I think we should grab a safety, all those kinds of things, okay? Running back, maybe. I don't know. I'd love to see this stable, going ahead and adding Tevin Coleman as a veteran with Josh Adams, Ty Johnson, and LaMichael Pirine. I'd love to see this batch go at it and see what they can do. And I happen to like quite a few running backs, some particularly I like. Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, obviously Najee Harris, one of my favorite players in the draft. I just don't see it. So, Kenneth Gainwell, Kylan Hill, Jarrett Patterson, a few others. These guys, they're a little different, but I think all of these guys could come in and play well. But it's going to be the same thing next year. Running back's a nice position group that seems to replenish itself every year. So what does that bring us to? It brings us to one that nobody talks about. Not nobody, but most people don't even care. They think this guy Chris Herndon is going to be something that he's never been. I'm rooting for it too, but tight end is a need. We went and signed Tyler Kroft. Technically speaking, we still have Griffin on the roster. We let Daniel Brown go. He could potentially be re-signed. I didn't see him get signed anywhere. I may have missed it. But so we have Chris Herndon, Griffin, and Tyler Kroft, essentially. And we have Trevon Wesco is more than likely going to fill an H-back, fullback type of a role. More than likely. That's my hope for him anyway. So we got a bunch of blockers and a guy who's supposed to catch but hasn't. Right? So I see tight end as a need. Now, let's take those needs. Quarterback, interior offensive line, cornerback, edge rusher, kicker, wide receiver, defensive back, tight end. 8 needs, 10 picks. Not too bad, okay? So how does this draft break for us? How does the draft break? With our number 1 need being quarterback, this particular draft happens to be a very strong quarterback class. Now, interestingly, that just might be the strongest positional group in the draft. There are so many quarterbacks that could actually come in and play well. And we're talking even going down to the Kellen Monds, the Kyle Trasks, the Jamie Newmans. They might need some development, but let me tell you, these guys have talent. These guys have potential. And the top 5 is stronger than most top 5s. So our number 1 need happens to coincide with the number 1 strength in this draft class. What do you think of that? Who did that? I don't know. I have my ideas on how this is all breaking. Okay? Now, the second strength in this draft class, and this is true, happens to be offensive line. Now, it looks like the tackle position might be a little bit stronger than the interior position, but that doesn't take away how strong this interior line class is. This is a strong offensive line class. The tackles, the interior, so you got guys at center what it's looking like is this with the centers. I'll give you 5, okay, or maybe 6 or 10, okay. Here's my centers as they stand. I love Creed Humphrey. Love him. If he's there at 23, I'm a big fan of taking him. I don't think he's going to make it to 34. You got Green Bay in there. They just lost Corey Linsley. If I say if he's there, take him. But I'll get into something else and why you wouldn't. Okay. You got Landon Dickerson. You have Josh Myers, who I like a whole bunch. You got Quinn Miners, Drake Jackson, and Trey Hill. Is that 6? Yeah. So right there, the top 6, any one of those guys could plug and play, in my opinion. Anyone. So I'll give you the top 5, 6 guards as I see it. You got Vera Tucker, and he can play tackle too. Vera Tucker, Wyatt Davis, Trey Smith, Ben Cleveland, and Alex Leatherwood. Okay, now that's not even to get into. There are guys I like later, Deontay Brown. I don't think Deontay Brown's a good fit, but Aaron Banks, Jack Anderson, Tommy Kramer. Okay? You got all these guys. So this is, again, quarterback is our number 1 need. The draft happens to be strongest in quarterback. Our second need is offensive line. It just so happens that that's the second strongest positional group in this particular draft. What do you think of that? When you look at free agency, and there's a guy out there like a Joe Thuney, hate saying it that way. A Joe Thuney, you got a center like Corey Linsley. And you got a few other guys. Gabe Jackson, Nick Easton might even still be out there. I thought we'd bring him in. I really did. But you got some guys. Let's just look at the top, right? You got guys making $15, $16 million a year. And it just so happens that this draft is going to provide you with inexpensive, young talent by the barrel. So does it make more sense to pay the guy $16 million because it's the name that everybody associates with that position this year? Just like last year with Jack Conklin. It's not saying the guy's not great. I love Jack Conklin. Joe Douglas didn't want to pay him $15 million a year when the draft is going to provide these things. So you have a guy making $16 million with the Kansas City Chiefs, and Joe Douglas threw his offer, said, hey, man, I'll pay you. I'll give you $14 million, 5-year contract, lots of guarantees. And he said, nah, I'm going to go take the $16 million for the champs. But the thing is that the net underneath Joe Douglas was the fact that this draft happens to be strong at the offensive line position. It's not a year where you need to do that. And this is the stuff. This is the stuff, man, that I really like, okay? Now, what's the next positional group? The next positional group happens to be wide receiver. It's the third down the pecking order as far as, really the strength of the class, but that it doesn't mean that it's not a very strong draft class. It is. Now, it seems like over the years that it's like every year, it's like this is the strongest wide receiver draft class. It does seem like that. But let me tell you, this is the last year for this, really. I mean, there's always going to be good guys coming out, always. But as far as the strength of the class, it shifts every year. Next year it could be a defensive tackle draft class, like 2 years ago. When we took Quinnen Williams, it really was a defensive line and, linebacker, defensive end class. So that's why it still was the wrong pick, and I love Quinnen Williams. I'm glad he's here, but it was the wrong pick at the wrong time. But it made sense because that was the strength of the class. Okay, that was the strength of the class. So what kind of wide receivers do we need? So he looks at this class and he says, okay, we got a lot of good wide receivers in the class, but I don't want to use premium assets on them because I'm going to need a quarterback and then I'm going to need an offensive lineman up there. So that pushes the need down. It's a weaker class than it is in the first two positions, so it makes a ton of sense to do that. And it pushes wide receiver down, so let me grab a couple of them. He goes out and he grabs Corey Davis, former 5th overall pick who had a very good year last year. He grabs him, and then he grabs the sleeper good wide receiver in Keelan Cole, which I'm telling you, I had a good time digging into that guy after we signed him. You know, I knew the name, but I'll admit I wasn't all that on top of Keelan Cole down in Jacksonville. I just wasn't. But I am now, and oh man, is he it's just, when you look at like our fourth wide receivers last year compared to Keelan Cole, dude, it's light years different. So he goes ahead and he grabs 2 wide receivers because it gives us a little bit of breathing room for that position. Okay, not to say we're not going to grab one. We are. I'd be blown away if we didn't grab at least one. So let's look at those guys. You got Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Terrace Marshall, who I'm liking more and more, Kadarius Toney, Rashad Bateman, who I'm going to tell you right now, from my eyes, from my vantage point, he might end up being the best wide receiver in this class. I know, I hear you. I don't want to fight about it. I'm just saying, I like him a lot more than people are talking about. Another one I like, and you slid up, quietly sliding up the charts, is Seth Williams. Probably the best hands in the draft. Super strong hands, high pointer. Love him. These guys, most of them are redundant outside of Kadarius Toney, who's, more in the Crowder mold, 5'10", 5'11", Toney's 5'11". Crowder's, I believe, 5'10", right? 5'9", something like that. But anyway, we have every receiver that Joe Douglas has brought in to date is 6'2" and above. And that even goes for his undrafted free agents. Look at Lawrence Cager. He brought him in. He's 6'6". That's Plaxico Burress land. The guy can't stay healthy. It's a bummer because he can catch too, and he's fast. He's the kind of guy you want to take a swing, take a flyer on, take a swing at. Probably going to whiff, but it's worth taking a shot. So you look at those receivers. I'm going to tell you right now, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Marshall, Bateman, Toney, they're all gone in the first, early second. So that pushes it down. So you're going to be taken from the next tier, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown, Anthony Schwartz, Coxie. Who else do I? Mari Rogers is the guy I hope we pull out of the mid rounds. That's who I'm hoping. But anyway, it's one of those things where it's a strong group, very strong group, but more than likely we can't pull from the top end of that. We just can't. We can't do it. So it makes a ton of sense looking at the way Joe Douglas hit free agency, right? With the 2 wide receivers that he brought in. I'm telling you, man, that's a number 1 and a number 3 or 4 wide receiver there. It's great. You think Perryman to Corey Davis? Come on. So the next positional group is cornerback. There are some good ones. It's a top-heavy class. And then, in the mid-rounds, there's some really good value there. Now, when we look at these guys, again, we have Bryce Hall, we have Blasan Austin, so it's really looking like we need that number 1 dominant guy, or just another number 2 guy. So you have Bryce Hall on the outside and this guy at the outside. And then you got the nickel, but you're really relying on your pass rush to make them look better behind you. You only give the quarterback 2 seconds to throw. And then if you do that consistently, then they're fine. Okay? That's what I think we're seeing here. So you look at guys like Caleb Farley is the guy I like the best. But guys, we've been here before, and we took D. Milliner, man, an injured guy. Now, yes, he was cleared too. All right, he was cleared too. Looking good. Rehab's on schedule. Everything's good. Now, we're not going to use a number 2 pick on him, so that's the closest we get to relating to D. Milliner, as we used the 9th pick on him in 2013, I think it was. Caleb Farley, because of his injury, might be sliding down. Can you pull the trigger at 23 when you probably should take an offensive lineman? Probably. Can you do that with Caleb Farley? Because he's sliding. He's a top 10 pick, top 15. Easy. I don't know. If he slides to 34, maybe. I don't think he's a pick at 23. could be because, again, the other groups are so strong. But then you got J.C. Horn. You got Greg Newsome, who I'm liking more. Elijah Molden-ish. Sante Samuel Jr., right? Surtain. I don't know if I said him. I didn't mean to skip him. Patrick Surtain. I've been looking at some things with Surtain and his potential weaknesses at the next level. I don't know. He's a scary one. But when you look at that position group, we didn't really help it so much in free agency. We didn't. So that means one of two things. Either we are really confident in the stable that we have, and that bringing in developmental guys is going to be fine, or we have every intention of taking one with either pick 34, pick 66, or pick 86. And who's going to be available in that range? You got guys like Kelvin Joseph, Paulson, Adebo, even maybe Stokes. If Stokes is there at 66 all day, every day. He does have problems, limitations in certain aspects. He's more of a zone, but if we're going to do the cover 3 thing, I don't know. Anyway, he's an excellent prospect, and I think he could be had in that third round, and he might make it to 66. It's going to be hard. But so you have guys that are going to be there, and if you focus on the edge rush, like he's done in free agency, and that'll segue into our next little bit here, because that's where we're getting into. Well, we're not even there yet. Okay. But if you focus on other aspects, the cornerbacks can be helped. Focusing on the cornerbacks first when you don't have the other is backwards. And that's what we've done over the years. 3-4 defense. When you're running a 3-4, which the Jets have run since 1997, outside of Herm Edwards' few years, we've run a 3-4 or one variation of it for 24 years. That's what we've done. We've run a 3-4, essentially, right? So now we're looking at a 4-3. And when you have a 3-4 defense and you're drafting defensive tackles, all you're doing is you're drafting space eaters. So a guy like Quinnen Williams in a 3-4, it's like it makes it easy for him to be neutralized. And then his job just becomes eating space, which he does well, but he's just eating space when his real skill set is he's a slippery goon. He slides right, super strong, super fast, and he can get past the guy if there's more to concentrate on for the offensive line, right? So a 3-4, when you're drafting defensive tackles and you run a 3-4 defense, you're essentially drafting guys just to be the run support. That's essentially what it is, and it's not cool. To put those kinds of resources when guys like Fadukasi in the 6th and Kyle Phillips as an undrafted free agent can do a very, very good job. You don't need to use your 3 overall pick on a defensive tackle in a 3-4. So that's the stuff we've been seeing. So we're going to be transitioning to a 4-3, 4-2-5, some cover 3, some cover 2. So essentially what we're looking at is trying to create space with the 4 down linemen, which, if you guys remember, the last time we really saw it, like I said, it was Herm. He did it too. But the last time it was like really a big part of who we were was back in the days of Marvin Washington, Scott Mercereau, Dennis Byrd, and Jeff Lageman on the outside. And we created pressure with those guys. When we blitzed, it was almost too much. If we sent Mo Lewis, it was almost too much for them to handle, which is why Mo Lewis has 53.5 sacks over his career. The next group is looking like it might be linebacker. And guess what? We don't really have any linebackers. We really don't. We have C.J. Mosley, one of the best linebackers in the NFL. Hasn't played in 2 years, lost his fire, big injury. That injury lingered for an entire year. And then he opted out. This guy could literally be, he could look like a pear for all we know. He could look like me. I used to be somebody. One of those kinds of things. Who knows? He's under contract. I'll tell you that. He's under contract, man. We got him for 4 more years, $18 million-ish. Not this year. This is the cheap year. 17, $18 million. It's crazy. So we have him, but we don't know what we're getting with him. Let's hope. Our hope is that Saleh can get him reignited, right? He's not old. So if we get him reignited, we're good. We just signed Jarrad Davis, who, guys, has tons and tons and tons of potential. He looked really good his rookie year, his second year better. And he had a decent year last year as a rotational piece. But Matt Patricia didn't know what the hell he's doing. It's clear. He's not even – look, he's fired. The Detroit Lions fans felt the same way about Patricia as we did about Gase. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So we scooped this guy up, so we have him. Now, the other guys on our roster are Blake Cashman. We don't have Hewitt. We don't have, these guys are gone. Lange, none of them are re-signed. So we have Blake Cashman, Mosley, and Jarrad Davis. So we're going to need a linebacker, and we're going to need a good one. Okay? We're going to need a good one. And they're going to put top 3, maybe 4th-round resources into the linebacker position. I see it coming. Now, who are we looking at? What kind of linebacker are we looking at? When you look at the inside linebacker, so if we're using a 4-2-5, essentially you want guys that can cover space quickly. Okay? They have to be just dominant against the run. They got to be sideline to sideline-esque, and they have to be able to cover. Okay, so who's that? Who do we got? We got Micah Parsons. He's good. He's not making it unless we used, maybe 23. Zavin Collins. These guys are all going to be gone. Nick Bolton. I don't see it. So that first group is going to be gone. This is another top-heavy class. But there are guys in the third that I think we're going to like. And there's guys like Monty Rice, KJ Britt, Chaz Surratt, maybe even Jamin Davis. All right, what's one of the ones I secretly like? Is Patty Fisher. He's a sneaky one from Northwestern. I like the way the guys come out of universities like Iowa and Northwestern. I like those guys. And Patty Fisher is just quietly going to sit there and get selected and dominate. Watch, he's going to go to the Ravens or the Steelers, and he'll be one of those guys. No matter how you slice it, we need to grab one of those guys. Now, we're getting into weaker positional groups in the draft, but we got to get one. And we got to get one in a bad way, because we did bring one in, and we do have one here, but Blake Cashman, as much as everybody believes in him, all the way since being a walk-on in college, he's always over-excelled. He's over-delivered, always. His problem has been injury, and his problem since he's been here has been exactly that, injury. He's earned the title break glassman. That's not good, dude. Okay, so depending on him is going to be an issue, especially when Salah's defense is really predicated on the 4 men up front providing the pressure without so many blitzes like Rex Ryan's, Todd Bowles' defenses. Even Greg Williams, those guys are dependent upon exotic blitzes. Now, Salah has those. He does that. But really, optimally, if your 4 guys up front can create the pressure, that relieves the rest of the defense to do their job. You don't have to sacrifice one trying to create pressure when you don't need it. And that's why it leads us to the next group, which is edge rusher. And this happens to be a relatively weak class when you're looking at the edge rushers. It's a weaker class, which is why you saw the attention given to that in free agency. We went out and got, look, man, arguably one of the most consistent, nonstop, edge rushers in the league. He's been consistent. He's injury a little bit, but the guy doesn't stop. He's exactly the guy that Salah wants. Okay? You brought him in, and you brought in the very effective Vinny Curry to be a rotational piece. You brought in Sheldon Rankins to sit next to Quinnen Williams, provide that interior pressure. What we're trying to create is a situation where no matter who you choose to double, if you double him, this guy's good enough to beat the man in front of him. Okay? But that doesn't mean we're not going to grab one, but it's more than likely. It's going to one of two things. Okay? Let me explain to you how this is going to go. It's either going to be a guy who more than likely can't come in and start, developmental, rotational. Okay? And it doesn't matter. A rotational guy coming in is fine for his first year. But if you really want somebody to come in and be able to fill that role, like, so if you got Carl Lawson over here, you got Quinnen Williams, you got Sheldon Rankins as the starters, and then over here, who do you have? And you want to bring somebody in to be penciled in right there. That's the guy. You're going to need to do something, which is to utilize the strength of the class to aggravate every fan and push a position up to the front. You got Gregory Rousseau, who opted out last year, and I don't think anybody can deny he's good, but I don't know if he's necessarily considered by all the teams to be the number one guy, and everything's kind of changing and all that sort of stuff. But he's going to be brought up there. He's going to be grabbed up there. You got him and Kwity Paye really way at the top of this draft class. But there are some others, but that's going to be the creme de la creme. Now, if you got Kwity Paye off the board and you got Gregory Rousseau off the board, and you're thinking, I need to grab the next guy. We're sitting at 23, and those are the only two edge rushers that have been taken. You got Micah Parsons is gone. All these guys are gone. As far as the linebacker, the cornerbacks are, Surtain's gone, Caleb Farley's gone, J.C. Horn is gone. All these guys are gone. And you're like, this is where the strength of this position ends in this draft class, if you feel that way. But you're looking at the offensive guards and centers, and there's still 5 of each that you could think could be plug and play. What you're going to do, and it's going to piss people off, is you're going to push that up to 23, and you're going to grab, whoever you like best at it, Jalen Phillips, Ojulari, so one of those guys, Carlos Basham, depending on how your board is. You could wait. You could grab a Patrick Jones at 34 maybe, but it's still going to be up top. You got to look at your board and you see where you got these guys, which tier you have them. If there's only one edge rusher left that you think can be plug and play, and there's 4 tackles, 4 guards, 4 centers, 3 cornerback, what do you do? Now you look and see if your top edge rusher's in the same tier as the guard you have or what have you. If they're in that same tier and there's only one left, you grab them. Because it's a position of need. You grab him. As long as he's not from the next tier and you panic. Like a McCagnon, like an Idzik, like a Tannenbaum would do that. You panic. Trade up. It's the last guy. So this is where it gets interesting. When you're looking at the strength of the class, when you're looking at the strength of this draft class, it can provide you with flexibility to do things that to the naked eye would look absurd. Like, think about this. You went into free agency, your needs were interior offensive line, cornerback, edge rusher, wide receiver, okay? You grab the wide receivers, you grab 2 edge rushers, and you don't grab any guards, any centers, except for depth. And then you go into the draft, you take a quarterback, and your next pick is an edge rusher. Can you imagine it? People are going to be furious. Joe Douglas, what the fuck he's doing? That's what's going to happen. But again, and look, I'm all for it. And if it was me, I would look at it this way, but the need for guard would preclude me from taking any, it would just supersede my needs elsewhere. It would. I would just want to cancel it out. I just want to get it done. But when you look at it this way, it makes a ton of sense to do that. So you lose out on Creed Humphrey, but you get Josh Myers or Landon Dickerson. You lose out on Wyatt Davis or Elijah Vera Tucker, but you get Ben Cleveland or, whoever else it is that you like. When the edge rushers, if you don't grab Jalen Phillips or Patrick Jones or Kwity Paye or any of those guys up top, and you're looking at the third, because now, you take your offensive lineman, what's going to end up happening is you're stuck with the Ronnie Perkins, nice players, all that. I'm not particularly fond of those guys as starting material right away. Chris Rumpf, those guys, So this is one of the things where when you start to use the strength of the draft to guide you and watch what other people are doing. Joe Douglas has proven to me, or at least given me the indication so far, that he pays attention to the other draft boards, which is so important. I'm telling you, man, it always aggravated me. I felt like the Jets were in a bubble. They weren't listening or looking at anything else going on. I hated it. I could be wrong, and they could just be dumb when they're looking at it, but it looked to me like they didn't know anything going on. When you look at how Joe Douglas is sliding down and all those it looks to me like he's paying attention to the tendencies and likelihoods, the percentages of things going on that he wants to go on before he makes a move. Just like he did with Sam Darnold at the beginning of this podcast. He's paying attention to everything. He's not just, first for Sam, that makes sense. He didn't just do that. He said, no, that's great. I appreciate the offer. I have a lot more to look at before I make that decision. What if I make that decision and find out 3 weeks later, oh my God, how did I not think of this? That was the worst decision, and the Panthers are going, you know what I mean? Who knows? You never want to do that. So it makes sense. Now, this is going to bring me to the final positional group, and I'll tell you, it's not as weak as I'm looking everywhere. I'm looking all over the place. And everybody's telling me that the tight end class is not as strong as I think. I beg to differ. I think this is a strong tight end class to pretty strong. Okay? It's all right. It's just my opinion. When I look into these guys, I think this is an excellent tight end class, especially on the top. The top, it's top heavy, but it's also, you're going to get some really good value in the second to fourth. And that's where I don't think we're going to see one top 3 picks. I just don't. Unless we trade back and whatever. I don't see it. Makes me a little upset. Nothing would make me happier than the Jets to throw caution to the wind and say, I don't care. The draft is strong in the other positions, and I'm grabbing Pat Freiermuth or Brevin Jordan way up top. I don't care. I'd love it. I would cheer it. I would applaud it. I'd make 6-hour videos of me going like this. That's what I'd do. But realistically, guys like Kyle Pitts, Pat Freiermuth, Brevin Jordan, even Hunter Long, they're going to be gone in the first 2 rounds. There's no question in my mind. So where does that leave you? It leaves you with the next tier, which is sneaky good, man. Sneaky good. And like I said, Chris Herndon is not going to do it, man. He has never done it. If he does, great. I think the best thing for Chris Herndon would bring in some competition so he doesn't assume he's the starter, sitting all comfortable like. Fear for your job. And then maybe Chris Herndon can do it. That's my thought. So look, when those 4 guys are gone, Kyle Pitts, Freiermuth, Brevin Jordan, Hunter Long, the next guy you have, Trey Mckitty. Okay? Kenny Yeboah, sneaky good, man. Tommy Tremble. Okay? These guys are good. One of my favorite tight ends in the entire draft, and everyone's sleeping on him, and I don't know why. He's huge. He's got the speed. He's got the hands. 6'5", 240 or 250 pounds. I think it's 240. Nick Eubanks out of Michigan. Damn. We can grab Nick Eubanks in the 4th or 5th, and we would never look back, in my opinion. He'd be the next tight end, the Kittle found in the 3rd. You got guys like Antonio Gates, undrafted free agent. You telling me every team in the NFL passed on him 7 times? What are they looking at? So Nick Eubanks is that guy for me. I think if we grabbed him in the 5th, the 4th, I'd be ecstatic. Now, if we grab Tommy Tremble, Trey Mckitty, Kenny Yeboah in the 4th, even the pick 86 in the 3rd, I'd be psyched. But let me tell you, this is one of those positional groups where they're saying it's not a strength of the draft, and I got to tell you, I think otherwise. And I've probably stared into this group longer than any other group for some reason. I'm a little bit deranged with my tight end infatuation. I just love them. I think if you have a good tight end or two, everything changes. Everything changes. You look at what Bill Belichick did with his 2 tight end sets, even 3. 3 tight ends, 13 personnel. Guys that are big, long, strong, can catch and block. Come on, man. Another one, sneaky good, right from my little love affair, UVA, Tony Poljan, 6'7", 265 pounds. Sneaky good. Sneaky good. I'm really watching. I'm going to be curious to who gets that guy. You know what I'd love? I would like it if the Jets came out, grabbed their quarterback, grabbed, let's say Vera Tucker, went to 34, threw caution to the wind, and grabbed Carlos Basham. Enter into the third and grab Trey Mckitty, and then grab Eric Stokes or Paulson Adebo, or maybe even a nickel like Carrie Vincent or somebody like that. And then go back and then start developing the pipeline, right? You grab Alaric Jackson at tackle. You grab some of these guys, okay? Tommy Kramer at guard. You double up. You grab an Amari Rogers, right? Amari Cooper. What the hell's wrong with me? Amari Cooper. And then you come back around and you grab Nick Eubanks as well. Now, I'm just off the top of my head. Don't hold me to that one. I didn't research at who affects what, but I'm just saying something like that. I would love it. We grab Trey Mckitty up front, and then we come back around in the 5th, and we grab Nick Eubanks too, bring in 2 stud tight ends, and end this garbage with Chris Herndon and Griffin. Goodbye. You got Trevon Wesco. You got Tyler Croft, you got Trey Mckitty, and you got Nick Eubanks, and you call it a day, and you develop them, and you build this offense with guys you know are going to be here. They're here for the next 4 or 5 years, starting with your quarterback. You got an offensive line that's going to be here 5 years, protecting this guy. They're a gelled unit, and that's the way to do it. So, let me say this. I hope this wasn't too convoluted because I'm just so excited to talk about this stuff. I want to just let you know, you don't have to be tired of this time. This could be the time where you go from the fan you are today to a more informed, more educated fan by the day the draft rolls around. Take this time and learn. What is a 5 technique? Why do I want a 5 technique over a 3 technique? What is 13 personnel? Why does it never, ever, ever happen? What are we running? Are we at 12 personnel? Is that why we're drafting tight ends? What the fuck is going on? Why didn't we bring in a receiver? Why did we take edge at 23? Why? We need offensive line to protect the quarterback. So you want to know this stuff. That's what this period of time can be. It's what it's going to be for me. I'm still learning, guys. I know a whole bunch of stuff. Sometimes I know so much shit I can't even get it out. It gets all log jammed in here. But let me tell you, in 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be a more educated, more informed fan than I am right now. The creation of this podcast. And you want to know why? Because it helps my emotional state. I get so aggravated sometimes with things people are saying. And a lot of the time it's based on I don't understand, right? If I don't understand why you're saying what you're saying, and it goes against what I'm already thinking. I'm thinking the offensive line is the greatest need in the draft. We need to take one at 23. But we took a corner, and you're all happy about it. Why? What is it, everybody a moron? Or are they looking at things with other variables that you don't possess included? So for me, I think this next 2-week period can be amazing, exciting, educational, deep. Let's get into this together. Let's get into it together, Jet Nation. So I want to thank everybody for the contest last week. Those guys were great. Thank you for supporting your fellow fans, your fellow chat participants and all that. Those guys were great. We had such a good time. And we're looking forward to the next thing we're doing again. I want to thank, Ryan and Matt and everybody for participating as well. You guys are just the best. And I don't know. It's just you guys make it worthwhile. I mean, I'll be doing this shit anyway, right? Looking at scouting reports for a 7th-round pick. I don't know. I'll still be doing this stuff, but it's great to be able to talk about it with you. And let me tell you, I learn a lot from you guys, too, in the comment section. I'm listening. I'm always listening. So I thank you. I appreciate you being here. Please don't forget to smash that subscribe button. You do me a favor. Go over to Full-Time Coaster Tour on YouTube and smash that subscribe button. I'm sitting at 499 subscribers over there for like a week. 499? Come on. Can you get me over 500, Jets fans? Help me out. And there's a lot more coming. I'm putting together a couple meetups, a charity event in New Jersey. We're calling it the Jersey Shore Coaster Tour, where we ride every coaster on the Jersey Shore. There are 22 of them, all in one day, heading from south to north and trying to make it to Coney Island for that last day. And you'll be able to pledge and support, and all that's going to help keep this dog rescue in New Jersey open. They had a hard time with COVID, and they house 100 dogs, and they're looking like they might need to close their doors. And so we got to help them out, okay? And we'll have some fun doing it. So in addition to that, we're setting up a Coney Island meet where we all ride the Cyclone together. How's that sound? All right, get off your butt and come out to Coney Island and hang out with us. But I'll keep you posted on all that. Thanks again for being here. Like and subscribe, Jetnation.com. And I will see you next time. Don't let them rile you, Jets fans. Don't let them get to you. Don't let them bother you. This is the year. It's all changing. It's all different. I'm telling you, I can see it. Been around a long time. With that, have a great day.